Hello everyone, I'm Jim McCallum and we are here in Southport at the historic Amuzu Theatre. It's going to be my pleasure to interview Bill and Kathy Furplus. They are the owners and proprietors of this wonderful historic theater. So stay with us for the next 30 minutes as we enjoy Southport and the historic Amuzu Theatre. Bill and Kathy, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having us.
Bill, let's start at the very beginning. Tell us when the Amuzu Theatre opened and who opened it.
My grandfather had a business partner, Charles Goss, and they had several businesses in town, and they opened a theater in a location right next door, and it was more like a little Nickelodeon storefront. This building was completed in 1918. I'm not sure about the date on the original building. It was either 1912 or 1913.
Well, it's close to celebrating its 100th anniversary.
It's been 100 by now, yes.
That's great. Why did they want to open a theater?
I'm not really sure. I never heard, but they were both businessmen, and I think they saw that as an upcoming business. My grandfather had some entertainment interest because I've read some accounts of him being in the Silver Cornet band playing something, and I read another account where a group of young people, including my grandfather, went to Wilmington to see a play, so he had interest in that kind of thing.
Okay. So I heard you say it was next door and then moved here at some particular time.
About 1918, I think, is when he completed this building.
I see. It's a family endeavor on your part.
Yes, it is.
So,
It's been in my family ever since. I don't know when he and Mr. Goss' partnership dissolved, but it was a friendly separation. One took one business and one took another, and I think they remained friends, but they just did their own thing.
Well, bring us down through the family. It was your grandfather initially.
Right. His name was Price Furplus, and he ran the theater up until about 1945, and his health was declining. His wife died, and my father had worked in it some. This is an interesting thing. His name was Bertram Lanier Furplus, but everybody that might remember him would remember him as Bremen, which was his nickname.
Which came from the Bremen town musicians, him liking that particular fairy tale when he was little, and it stuck his whole life. Everybody in Southport would remember him as Bremen.
We're here in Southport, of course, on House Street, which is the main street, and so it's fair to say that the theater has been an integral part of the growth of the entire little town for the last 100 years.
Pretty much so. We had a period of time. We closed as a movie theater in 1980, and we didn't do much for about until about 2005, other than some movies being shot here. So it was kind of quiet for a while.
And I've followed the development of the theater since 2005 or so. Tell us a little bit more about the improvements that you've made and the changes that have occurred.
Well, it was pretty run down when we started doing things in 2005. We've put a new roof on it. We have put in handicapped restrooms. We have, most recent thing was painting the ceiling in the auditorium. That took about a month. But
completely new wiring.
Yeah, rewired the auditorium.
And,
We're planning to do some work. It's repair work really on the back. We really need to replace the entire stage, but we've got to do some repair work for immediate needs.
Well, with an historic theater, the work never ceases. No?
That is true. I mean, here painting or scraping or doing something most all the time.
Yeah. I'm curious to go inside and see the theater. Shall we?
Come on in.
Lead the way. Okay, Bill and Kathy, we're here in the inside of the theater, and I'm reminded that when this was built, there were no seats, but rather benches. Is that correct?
That's what I was told, and I read an article one time that Foxy Howard, who wrote about his father, who had the Bijou Theater in Wilmington, sold my grandfather his old seats to replace the benches.
Okay. And because I've been here recently, I can attest to the fact that these are very comfortable seats, but how many does the theater seat nowadays?
112.
Okay.
These are not theater seats, and they take up more room than regular theater seats would take because they don't flip up.
But they are comfortable.
Yeah, they're comfortable.
1954 was a year that we talked about off camera. Several things happened during that year or two. Tell us about those.
Okay, I was a little boy, but I remember these things. The first one, well, I'm not sure which happened first. Channel 6 TV opened in Wilmington. Prior to that, you know, we were the only theater here.
Sure.
There was no TV. A drive-in theater opened out the road here at the Beach Road. And then in October, Hurricane Hazel came and tore up the beach area, which tourism had begun to help business a lot. So we had all three of those things happen in 1 year.
Yeah. Bill, you've already said that you started as a young boy. I don't know how young, but a very young, I understand.
I don't remember a time when I didn't come down here.
Okay.
I mean, it seems like I was almost born in here.
His first job was keeping the door closed.
Okay.
So he had to do that.
The night I was born, this is funny, Jane Russell, this controversial movie, The Outlaw, it was the opening night of that here, and that was the very night I was born.
Why was the movie controversial?
Howard Hughes was known for liking pretty women with large cleavage or whatever, and Jane Russell fit the bill. That movie was made and publicized very highly before it was released. Then it was pulled out of release and re-released, or finally released in 1946, I think. And it was along about that point that we were able to play it.
Well, tell us about your early recollections of growing up being a part of this theater.
Coming down here, you know, cowboy movies, Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, Abbott and Costello, Disney movies, things like that I remember. A lot of the time, I didn't sit inside and watch a movie. I was out front running around doing something, eating candy or something.
Yeah. Kathy, you and I spoke about Bill's encyclopedic knowledge of movies. What's it like to live with a guy like this?
Well, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And if I ever have a question, all I have to do is go to him. I mean, quite often when we're in rehearsal even, especially for the rock and roll show, because that's his baby, the question will come up about when a particular thing happened, and he will know exactly. He'll know when, who was involved, and who produced it, everything about it. So it's great having him with that particular
knowledge doesn't carry over to practical things, so I don't know.
Well.
Movies and old rock and roll.
But it's the right interest to have a theater like this, isn't it?
I guess so. Yeah, because well, we'll get into this later, but it was a movie theater. We would like to be able to return to movies of some form at some point.
How about that? Bill, it must have been an exciting time to grow up as a young man being a part of this theater, but we all learn life's lessons, and I'm sure you learned a lot of them growing up here at the Amuzu.
Well, we put in a Coke machine, Pepsi machine. We had popcorn, and people got thirsty, and that was my duty to run the Pepsi machine. So did that for a while. One of my favorite things was we had traveling film salesmen that would come from all the companies to visit. They traveled around to the theaters, and I loved to be here when the film salesmen came.
Were they marketing their
movies? Yeah.
I see.
And each company had their own film salesman, and I tried to always be around when they were there. And my father actually let me pick movies to book sometimes when I was, I don't know how old, 12, 13 years old or something. Wrote a newspaper column about the movies in the Pilot one summer about what was playing and things like that.
Well, those are great life's lessons for sure that have carried over, I'm sure.
And then one of the things that I ended up having to do here that was not a favorite thing at all was running the projectors. That was, I liked to be downstairs seeing the people, and in the projector room you were pretty much by yourself and had to pay attention to what you were doing.
Well, tell us a little bit more about those.
Okay, we did not have platter systems. We certainly didn't have a digital system. That's something that's recently been developed.
Now, what's a platter system?
That was where they spliced the whole movie together on a big platter, and it just ran through the projectors. We had reel to reel. Every 18 minutes you would have to switch from one projector to the other. If you ever watch an old movie on TV, sometimes you see a little circle up in the top right corner every now and then. That was called a cue. And the cues would tell you when to switch from one reel to the other. And getting near the end of the reel, you had to be right on top of that. You had to have both projectors lit up and ready to go and switch from one to the other.
Not much room for error there.
Not any room, or you would notice it on screen.
So where are the old projectors now?
They are still here. We've got the same projectors upstairs. They do not work right now because when we rewired, we didn't run the power to them. But they are there, and we'll be glad for you to look at them, and they're kind of fascinating.
Well, they're great pieces of history, and that provides us with the perfect transition to say, let's go upstairs and take a look.
Okay?
Great.
Shall we go?
Is 6:30 too early for a Get Fit workout? Are your weeknights too hectic to catch the West Brunswick football? Do you find yourself missing all your favorite ATMC TV shows? Well, now you don't have to. ATMC TV is airing all their latest shows on demand. Stop, pause, fast forward, or rewind. Watch your shows on your time. Tune to Channel 1 to see shows like Brunswick Biz, Get Fit, The Coastal Kitchen, and more. Stay connected to beautiful Brunswick County with ATMC TV on demand. Brought to you free by ATMC.
Bill, we're upstairs here in the projection room at the very top of the theater, and we're looking at some old projectors that I find fascinating. And I want you to tell our viewers what we have here.
These are old simplex projectors. These were usually here super simplex projectors. I don't know how old they were. Pieces were changed on them, like when sound was added or when CinemaScope widescreen movies, they had to adapt them for that. But basically, the projector system worked the same. It just had to make little adjustments.
Now, I want you to tell me more about it, but for starters, I want to remind myself and our viewers that you have two identical setups, and you would move from one to the other every 18 or 20 minutes as the reel concluded. Is that right?
That's right.
All right.
And
show us more. Tell us more.
Okay, this was where the film went. This is called a top magazine, and this is the bottom. A reel would be up here, an empty reel down here. The film would come out, come around up under there. This is where the lens went, and then it would shine out through the hole there to the screen and thread up around there. Around this is the sound head over here, and on the bottom reel.
And of course, sound is a part of this.
Right. Yeah, this was an amplifier that was used with that. This was the light. These were not bulbs. These were carbon rods, and they were extremely hot. And this was an exhaust fan up here that doesn't work now, but it pulls some of the heat out of here. But it was that was the thing I didn't like about running the projectors, other than not being downstairs with the people. It was hotter than fire in here.
Yeah, I bet.
So the rods would be in there. You'd have to keep adjusting them. So that was pretty much what it was, but you'd switch back and forth. I don't know whether you can see this or not, but this was a sound switch, and you would just watch the cues and then switch everything when the cues came up.
I see.
Can't do that now, everything falls.
So the idea was to seamlessly move from one to the next.
So the public didn't even know it was happening. It just flowed right through.
Precisely, right.
That old thing over there was a rewinder. When you got through running a reel, you'd take it off, put it in there, and it'd wind it back and reverse it to the beginning for the next showing.
Sure. So if a movie lasted an hour and a half or 2 hours and you were in charge, you'd be up here for the entire period of time and be very alert to what's going on.
Had to be, yes.
Yeah. Now, is the sound adjustable from up here?
Yeah, this was right here. Now, none of this is hooked up now.
Sure.
But, yeah, that was the sound control right there.
All right. No 3D, huh?
No, you know what? With 3D, in the 50s, the 3D movies.
There was 3D back then.
Yeah, they had to have synchronized projectors with large reels, and they would have to stop during the movie, and my father never would do that.
Well, when I asked the question, I was being facetious, but then I reminded myself immediately that there was 3D back in those days.
1953 was the year for 3D. They had a lot of 3D movies came out that year. We played them, and a lot of them in just regular flat screen 2D.
And did they have the cardboard glasses?
But, I mean, when we ran them, they were just regular. I mean, you know, you didn't have to use the glasses.
Oh, okay.
Because we couldn't show the 3D.
Right.
And it didn't last but about a year there in 1953, 54. And I guess my father had enough foresight to know that wasn't going to last because he didn't ever convert the projectors over to that.
Right, right. What else can we see here, Bill? This is just absolutely fascinating.
Well, that's an old reel cabinet. That When the film came in, it has 6 boxes on it. We would just put the reels in there, and then that kept them in order. If you got the reels out of order, then your movie messed all up. You had to do reel 1, reel 2.
Now, who shipped them in and shipped them out, and how were they
They
shipped in?
came from Charlotte.
Okay.
And that's where the film salesman that I mentioned earlier came from. They had distribution centers in Charlotte. And
were they delivered or mailed?
They came in, let's see, Observer Transportation Company, owned by the Charlotte Observer, I think, delivered them to Wilmington, and then we had to get them from Wilmington to Southport.
Okay.
And I think the bus station, there was a bus station here, then the bus delivered them. And later on, I'm not sure, I think Observer finally started delivering them on down here.
Fascinating, fascinating. Let us depart the projection room and we'll continue with our interview. We want to talk some more about what's going on nowadays here in the theater, but first things first, let's talk about how the two of you became involved in this. You're married, obviously, and how you became involved in the theater. How did you guys meet?
We actually met through the school system, Brunswick County Schools.
Okay.
I worked for him for a not very long time, but during the summer one year, I worked as an English teacher at North Brunswick and Leland Middle, and he hired me to be his English teacher for the summer. And, you know, one thing led to another, and I guess on my part it was actually love at first sight, but I don't know about him.
Well, it's a good story. It's a good story.
story.
Let's talk about some of the things that are happening currently. You have several programs that have been or are to be presented. Let's talk about those. Tell us about those.
Well, right now we're in production for our annual rock and roll show. This will be the 5th year that we do a big extravaganza featuring rock and roll music from 1955 to 1965.
And is it a summer production?
It's a summer production. We will run the 3 weekends in August. Tickets will go on sale sometime in July, and we welcome everybody to come and see that. It sells out every year, so get your tickets early.
The theater will be rocking.
The theater will be rocking. We have a live band, several pieces, and we have 15 cast members who perform all the music basically the way it was originally recorded, because he insists on that.
Mostly the oldies, right?
Oh yes, absolutely, all oldies.
Bill, are you a musician?
No, unfortunately.
Okay.
I've had 3 guitars in my life, and I've learned 3 chords, G, C, and D7.
One on each, huh?
I could never tell when it was in tune, so I'm not a musician.
But you're a student of rock and roll.
Yeah, I like old rock and roll.
Absolutely.
Kathy is a musician. My daughters are both musicians. But
All right, if I ask you to think of 2 or 3 of the great groups from the 50s or the early 60s, who comes to your mind?
well, I always liked Elvis, but I'd like.
So did I.
I like the Platters and Fats Domino and the Coasters and
Temptations.
the Temptations were in the
Drifters.
60s, but the Drifters, they were in the 60s more too.
And the doo-wop music's out of the
Yeah,
50s,
yeah.
more or less, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
50s, early 60s.
Okay. Bill, you've already explained that the theater was in your grandfather and then your father's name, but it ultimately came down to you, and I understand that you were managing the theater at a fairly young age.
When my father passed away, I was 15, and my mother had never worked in the theater, so she and I ran it together for 18 more years. I went to college during that time, as I was gone some of the time, but I was right in Wilmington, so I could run home all the time.
Sure.
But yeah, I had to pretty much do a lot of running it during that time.
You were a teenage manager of some sort, am I right?
Sort of, yes.
Okay, good. We also know that a couple of movies used this facility for their movie. Is that correct?
Correct.
Well, tell us about those. Our viewers will want to know about those.
Okay, as a movie theater, we closed in 1980. And if you might want to know this, the last movie we ran was the re-released version of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
How about that?
But then it didn't do We didn't do anything in here until 1986 when they were filming Crimes of the Heart. They used the front of the theater only and had big old for sale signs by Ole Miss Realty because it was set in Mississippi.
Sure.
But they didn't film inside. But it shows up briefly in Crimes of the Heart just when the bus is coming in town with Jessica on it, coming back to get her sister out of jail or something. So the next one was I Know What You Did Last Summer, which was 11 years later in 1997. And they used the stage for the beauty pageant, and they used the balcony right where we're standing right now to kill Ryan Felipe, right here with a hook.
As we stand.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then in 2008, seems like we go on 11-year spurts there. They shot some scenes from The Secret Life of Bees here. They used the front. They had a fake box office out there, and then they used the balcony. It was supposed to be set right before integration, and it was in South Carolina, so things were segregated. And Dakota Fanning and her friend Tristan Wilde were delivering honey, and they came to a movie, and he was supposed to sit upstairs, and she was supposed to sit downstairs, but she came upstairs with him, and then these guys came in with baseball bats to haul them out.
And it was all filmed right here.
Right here, yes, right over there.
Yeah. When these major film production companies come here, did they contact you or vice versa? How does that happen?
No, they contacted me. Now, I did chase the scouting guy down the street on Safe Haven, but I didn't get anywhere on that one.
Right.
They didn't need a theater in that one.
That's one we know well. Let's talk about the future.
Okay.
Tell us how you see this wonderful historic theater fitting into the community and to the future of your family.
Well, I will say that we're not making a living out of the theater. We're putting the money that comes in on the shows back into working on the building.
I see.
We have done a lot of repairs on it that we mentioned, but the back end has really got to have some work done. We have no dressing area. We have no storage area for costumes. We have no planning area or anything. And the back really needs replacing from the stage, the whole stage area. So that is probably the next thing we'll be working on. We need to do a lot of work on the front of the building too. The inside, we plan to reseat with theater seats at some point. We would like to continue doing live shows. Kathy can elaborate on that. We have got some traditions there. We've done concert shows that we do. We've done plays from Stage 2 productions, and most recently Brunswick Little Theater. We've brought in shows from out of town.
Right.
We really want to return to movies, not the brand new movies that are playing now, but well, some of the new movies, the independent movies that that you would see in the more artsy theaters.
Sure.
And some old movies, classic movies.
Yeah. Now you talked about some future restoration projects, but it's worth saying that for the last 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years, you've done a lot of restoration already.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Well, the first thing we did was put a new roof on the building because everything was getting damaged by that. The roof covers the main part of the building. It does not, that roof did not cover the stage. The stage, like I said, just needs replacing. We've rewired the auditorium, put in handicapped restrooms in the lobby.
Right.
We've done a lot of painting, beadboard in the lobby that looks exactly like the beadboard that was put in 1918 when the building was built. Right. You can't even tell the difference where the new begins and the old one ends. But most recent thing was painting the ceiling, and it took a guy quite a while to do it. We had scaffolding in here, and that was done right before our Christmas show.
Good. Kathy, I want to turn to you again and talk about the big rock and roll show in August. Now, you're the production or you're the director of that show.
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
Well, we have a live band and 15 cast members, and we do all oldies but goodies from 55 to 65, and all performances are live, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful good time to come and sing and dance. We encourage the audience to get involved with us, and we always twist because that's so much a part of the late 50s and 60s, and we try to do some other types of dancing too during the rock and roll show.
Is it for several nights, or? It
runs 3 weekends this year. We've sold out in the past running just 2 weekends, so we're hoping to sell out another weekend. It'll be I I think it's the 8th through the 10th, and then the following 2 weekends in August before Labor Day.
And if I'm sitting on one of the aisle seats, I could get up and dance a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
great.
There will be even a chance where no matter where you're sitting, you can get up and dance.
Oh,
'Cause
okay,
you can
really?
twist no matter where you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can all twist.
Great.
Yeah. Kathy, I failed to ask you about this, but I think it's important that our viewers know there were some other great productions here, some musicals and others. Tell us about those.
Well, we had a relationship with Stage 2 Productions for a long time. In fact, that's how the theater actually got opened again in 2005. And we did major musicals like Chicago and Jesus Christ Superstar and Jekyll and Hyde and just Children of Eden. And they were full-blown musicals with the live orchestra and everything, and it was just amazing. And we had several people come in and do concerts, and we've had some touring groups from other parts of the state to come in and perform for us. So we've done a little bit of everything, I guess you could say.
Well, and it's part of the great history of this theater, right?
It is very much a part.
Yeah. Bill and Kathy, we're about ready to wrap up this terrific interview. We want our viewers to know where the Amuzu Theatre is located, so tell us again.
It's 111 North Howe Street. If you're coming in town, it's the main road that you come in on, about a block and a half from the river. So if you get to the river, you've passed it, but it's on the right side.
Great. You've been great hosts. We thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
It's been terrific.
We
Thank you, Bill.
really enjoyed
Thank
having
you.
you.
Thanks again.
Is 6:30 too early for a Get Fit workout? Are your weeknights too hectic to catch the West Brunswick football? Do you find yourself missing all your favorite ATMC TV shows? Well, now you don't have to. ATMC TV is airing all their latest shows on demand. Stop, pause, fast forward, or rewind. Watch your shows on your time. Tune to Channel 1 to see shows like Brunswick Biz, Get Fit, The Coastal Kitchen, and more. Stay connected to beautiful Brunswick County with ATMC TV on demand. Brought to you free by ATMC.
We want to thank Bill and Kathy Furpless for being with us today. It's been a wonderful visit with them at the historic Amuzu Theatre. We also want you to know about the up-and-coming production of Brunswick Little Theatre. It's called Into the Woods. It is at Odell Williamson at the college. It is July 25th to August 3rd. Tickets are $18 and $12, and for more information, please go on their website, brunswicklittletheater.com. Again, we thank you for joining us this week. We look forward to staying in touch with you on Our Hometown.
Is 6:30 too early for a Get Fit workout? Are your weeknights too hectic to catch the West Brunswick football? Do you find yourself missing all your favorite ATMC TV shows? Well, now you don't have to. ATMC TV is airing all their latest shows on demand. Stop, pause, fast forward, or rewind. Watch your shows on your time. Tune to Channel 1 to see shows like Brunswick Biz, Get Fit, The Coastal Kitchen, and more. Stay connected to beautiful Brunswick County with ATMC TV on demand. Brought to you free by ATMC.
My granddaddy is the best granddaddy ever.
Where does he work?
AMT Wireless.
ATMC.
AMT Wireless.